Well, just when you are starting to get comfortable with version 10.1 of Desire to Learn from our upgrade last summer, D2L is now coming out with version 10.3. What we're going to go over here are the top 6 upgrades. This is nowhere near the major upgrade of last summer, so don't be nervous. We have 6 different areas that we're going to cover. First is content. There are some interesting developments there. The discussion tool has the biggest change. They spent a lot of time working with it, and we'll be going over the details of that. The equation editor, there's great news, as well as the HTML editor. We have more good news with that tool. The Dropbox and quizzes, we have minor things to share with you, so sit back and we will reveal to you the changes that are coming in version 10.3. So let's begin with number 1 on our top 6 list, and that would be content. You may recall since the upgrade last summer in the content area how extremely long this list is. New to version 10.3 is the Expand All and Collapse All. This is available when you are on the Table of Contents tab. So let's collapse all. It shortens to just the modules. Now what you're able to do is work on individual modules without having to scroll forever down the list. When you're done with one module, you can close it and then expand the next. This is truly, I think, a great feature. Another improvement is that D2L will now remember where you were the last time you came into content. So if I go to Course Home and then back to content, it could be 2-3 days later, it remembers where you left off in Module 3. Quite a nice feature. Once you click on any item within a module, as it has in the past, it'll of course be displayed in the viewing area, but what you may want to pay attention to is this side panel over here. If I click on it, it will expand, and what it does is it presents everything within this module. Think of it as a jump to menu. I could jump right to the assignment or to this external link here. I can also use the forward to go to the next module. I can also still use the forward and backward to navigate one step at a time through the content of the current module. Here is a new icon to us. Go to the table of contents. So from within this menu, there are very many options that I think it'll just take a very short time to get used to. So now I'm going to return to the module to show you something else that is new. Down here I have a link to the PCC library that will open in a new window. And when I click on that, of course, it does open in a new window. But what I'd like to share with you is what happens if a student may have a pop-up blocker on. The new window will be prevented from opening. They will have displayed for them this page that tells them that they're trying to link to an external resource and that they can open it in a new window, and thus preventing any confusion in case they do have their pop-up blocker on. All right, so now let's take a look at the discussions. This is where D2L spent most of their time, and I think we'll find that most of them we're going to think are improvements. So if you have a lot of forums, you can hide all topics over here on the right-hand side. What that'll do is shrink all of the topics within the forums. So here I have 6 forums, and it considerably shortened my list. This is similar to collapsing in the content area that has been added. If I'm going into my current forum, I can expand just that forum, which shortens the list, which we all know. If you have a lot of discussions, that list is really unending. And towards the end of the term, you're always scrolling to the bottom. So now that I've expanded this particular forum, let's take a look at what's new with the discussion list. So here are my topics within this forum. What's new are the list of threads. There are 5. And then there are 9 posts. This also shows when the last post was and by whom. The key to understanding what the changes are is understanding the word thread. When I begin a post, that is the beginning of a thread. the replies to my original post, which again is the beginning of a thread, become the post. Threads is the new buzzword in discussions. Also notice on this second topic here, we have 4 posts, and it's telling me here, if I hover over this parenthesis, it's telling me that there are 3 new posts that I have not read. So by clicking on this, I can go and read those and clean up my work here as the instructor. So let's take a look at editing. There is something new in 10.3 that allows students to be able to rate posts, and it's up to you when you establish the topic whether or not you want students to be able to rate. Under Rate Posts, the options are 5-star rating scheme, a vote up or down, which we could say is either yes or no, yay or nay, or a vote-only rating scheme that points up. So it's like approving something and giving it your approval, saying, I agree to it. Maybe a little bit like liking something in Facebook. So you would decide which one you wanted to use. Something else we would like to point out is when you enter a discussion and you have the list of all the threads that are beginning on this page, we'd like to draw your attention to the sort by and just review the options, the expanded options you have in which you can choose to display the list of threads within this discussions. You might find a favorite, you might find a couple that you really like. Also, similar to in the content area from the table of contents, notice over here we have a side panel for discussions that we can expand. And what it allows you to do, similar to in content, is navigate throughout the discussion topics that you have available. One thing that is available here that is not in the content is pin the topics list. So if I click that, so what that does is it keeps it here almost like a table of contents to navigate amongst my discussion topics without having to expand or close. So let's explore the new path by which you'll be using to work within the discussion area. So let's click on Discussions, which brings us to the discussion list. Here I will go in and review the Introduce Yourself topic. By clicking on the title, here is the original topic that I had presented. Students would, from their window, click Start a New Thread in Reply, and here are 3 students who had started their own original threads. If you have 20, 25 students, you will have that many entries, and this is, we'll say, the root, the very beginning of a thread for each student. This bar here tells me that there has been activity in Andre's, so I'm going to click on his thread to work with it. Now I'm seeing from top to bottom, it's a vertical threading of the discussion from this area. Here is Andre's original reply. Now here is a reply from Greg to Andre. Here is a reply from Melanie to Greg about what he said about Andre. Greg then replying to Melanie about her reply for what he said, and then, of course, Melanie's original reply to Andre. So I think you get the idea. It is similar to what we had in the grid view. This will just take a little getting used to. You've seen how long this list is in this particular thread, but notice this here. This stuff here is threads from the original post and information that really isn't necessary, and it's included in every one of the posts. So what I would like to show you is a cleaner way to approach this. You would go into Settings and uncheck the box that says Include Original Post in the Reply and save. Now let's go back in, and I have one set up here from Peter that if I click on his thread, you'll see how much shorter it is. I can simply read what each person is replying to the original post. So it would be recommended to turn that off. It would make it so much easier to view. As the overseer of any discussion board, you will have the opportunity to delete inappropriate comments. Here in the action menu is your opportunity to delete any post that you feel is inappropriate. And then up here, there is the action menu for the beginning of this thread with many options. A couple that I would like to point out is mark all posts as read or unread, and of course you can delete the entire thread if you would like. Also, in the action menu is Assess Topic, and you'll be pleased to know that all the features that were in 10.1 are continued in 10.3 unchanged. Now I would like to draw attention to the HTML editor. It has been not necessarily greatly improved, but the truly beautiful thing is that there is now only one HTML editor. It has the same menu. It functions exactly the same. If you'll recall, in certain areas of D2L 10.1, you would go into different areas like Manage Files, and you would have almost a completely different menu system for the HTML editor, and it became very frustrating to know that it wasn't always the same. Thanks, D2L developers. You've been listening. One other minor change that may take getting some used to is the order in which the icons appear in the new HTML editor. The top one is 10.3, and down here is version 10.1, and you'll notice that the insert stuff, pictures, and links is now in the beginning, and they've basically exchanged areas. So I believe you might stumble a couple times, but as we get used to it, I think it's going to feel pretty smooth for us. While we're in the HTML editor, let's take a moment and talk about the new equation editor. Who would think that Java would age, become old-fashioned, out of style? Well, that often difficult and quirky Java-based equation editor is gone, and it has been replaced with a JavaScript-based version. This new editor is an HTML5 friendly, and it will make you and your students' lives much easier when creating equations. No more barrage of security warnings, plus it works on tablet. This is huge for both math and the sciences. So here it is, the equation editor, and those of you who rely on it, take it for a spin. We think you'll be quite pleased. There are a couple things in the Dropbox that we would like to share with you. In the previous version, if a student submitted their work to you, say, via email, it was very difficult for you to try and use the Dropbox tool in order to give them feedback and enter their grade. No longer. Each student has an evaluate button, whether or not they've submitted something for you to evaluate within the tool. Could come in handy. If you've ever used the bulk download to download all the files, correct them, make comments, and then individually send them back, you know how much time that takes. Well, now in our new version, you can now bulk upload, and it is called Add Feedback Files. What you can do is re-upload the files with corrections, and D2L will sort them out and make sure that the proper work gets to the proper student. If you've ever wanted to use this function but didn't because of the return procedure, it's time to reevaluate your thinking. When it comes to quizzes in version 10.3, there's just a couple things we'd like to point out to you. When you go into a quiz to edit, you'll notice that the menu bar, the tabs, has changed to help you be more efficient. So here are the tabs in the new version. Here are the tabs in the previous version. Notice Attempts is not here any longer, and Layout and Questions is not here any longer. So let's take a look and see what happened to these items. Well, on our Properties tab, here's where the Layout and Questions is gone, and that, of course, is pretty handy. Once you've created your quiz, in order to edit it, you always had to click way on the far right in order to get going. Now it's on your default Properties tab. Restrictions tab remains the same. There are no changes here. But under the Assessment tab, here's where you will find your attempts. The Objectives, Submission Views, and Report Setup tabs are all remain the same. One minor change under Submission Views that I'll mention here is if you have an additional date release criteria, when you go in to edit this, you'll notice that you have half-hour increments. Now, if you wanted to change this, you could type in any time you want, but I'm sure that they felt this would more quickly get you in and out. You can also restrict by IP address, and for more information, you can click on this little question mark here. And you can also limit the duration, limit the amount of time in minutes for which this view is available after the quiz is submitted. So you can restrict how long they can see that. And that might come in handy. Well, we hope that you have found a sneak peek at the top 6 upgrades for Desire to Learn 10.3 helpful. And if, as you progress through the upgrades and find little innuendos here and there, don't forget to call the Faculty Help Desk at 971-722-8227 for assistance